were you to take a selfie of social justice here in the state of Oklahoma, what you find is there are a great many people who are doing relatively well. But you'd also find, in the wake of the Great Recession and in the midst of this uncertain, uneven economic recovery, that there are those who are not doing particularly well. What you find in Oklahoma is those who are in the top 1% earn roughly 10 times more than those in the bottom 20%. Those in the middle earn roughly 5 times more than those at the very top. The point being here is, in this state, we're still wrestling with income inequality. There are far too many people who find themselves on a creaky, down escalator, while there are others on a high-speed elevator to the top. And the point being here is that where you have people who are willing to work, who have the will and skill to work, we have to create opportunities for them to work. The NAACP has always been about ensuring that the door of opportunity is held wide open. We don't want the grimy hands of bias and bigotry holding that door shut. And so we've always stood against discrimination in the workplace. We stood against bias in the workplace. We stood against anything that causes people to be judged on something other than their skills and abilities or the content of their character. That's what we stand for. But we have to look more carefully at what happens in the labor market. There are certain forms of bias and discrimination which are more subtle. So, for example, where employers decline to hire people who've been unemployed for long periods of time. That seems neutral. It seems objective, i.e. you want people who've been recently employed, but the reality is that form of discrimination and that form of sifting through workers sifts out those who are disproportionately black and brown and people who are working class, because those are the folks who've been hurt most by this economic recession. When employers decline to hire people based on criminal records, no matter what those records are, not only is it irrational, i.e. you're sifting through and sifting out people who are well able to work in many instances. In other words, what happens when you have a middle manager who engaged in a fraternity prank 15 years ago and has a minor criminal record? Should that person be prevented from working? What happens when you have a person who's convicted of a minor drug offense, a possession of marijuana? Should that person be barred from working? The point being is there are all manner of 21st century barriers that keep people from being employed and keep people from moving up in the workplace, and the NAACP stands against those barriers and those forms of bias. But lastly, I want to leave you with a vision of the future. When you take a selfie of the NAACP, here's what you'll find. You'll find an organization that is very much committed to 21st century civil rights advocacy. Consider this. 10% of our board seats are reserved for young people. 1 out of every 4 or 1 out of every 5 people at our conventions is below the age of 25. We have college branches all across this country that are engaged in civil rights advocacy even as they're preparing for the workplace.